We're good? All right. All right. Well, let's just start. We had a lot of build up to this. Let's just start with the text.
And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son, nor daughter, nor male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
All right. And so we know these as the Ten Commandments. And do we have the slide now?
I am working on it right.
He's working. Oh, and look, and there it is. So, has anybody ever heard of the Cowboy Ten Commandments? Anybody heard of that? Well, this is it. It's been translated into Cowboy, I guess. I didn't know that was a language. But if you translated these into Cowboy, you would get this. Just one God. Honor your ma and pa. No telling tales or gossiping. Get yourself to Sunday meeting. Put nothing before God. No fooling around with another fellow's gal. No killing. Yeah. No, watch your mouth. Don't take what ain't yours. And don't be hankering for your buddy's stuff. And we'll just stay there for a while. And I kind of like this because I like the language. But it's also a very simple, straightforward way to put these commands. And I think it's a great starting point. It's a great way to translate it into something that's just like, you can get that, right? Because some of the language here is a little more, I don't know, maybe harder to understand, harder to relate to today. This puts it into today's language. But we've been digging deeper, right? We've been digging deeper into the Word to see what more God is telling us. So the first question I want to start with now is not what do you see in this or what do you see in the Ten Commandments, but how are we going to dig deeper? What are we going to be looking for? How are we going to study this, to wrestle with it? So what things might we look for? And just tell me, y'all tell me, because we've been studying this for half a year now, almost 6 months. Half a year, we've been looking at this a different way. What kinds of things you're going to look for? And not so much about these. Focus on, open your Bibles and look at the text there. How is God going to speak to us other than just the words that are speaking to us?
I think he looked at it as a positive for us to be able to sustain our life daily.
All right, so there's one thing I like that it's not so much commands, you can't do this, you can't do this, but like, hey, I'm trying to help you.
Right.
Here's some things to live by. I like that. What else? Anybody have any ideas about like what we might do to see what God is trying to say here?
This is your first list of things you should not do. It's not really, God's been really patient to this point as far, but now we're getting to a list of almost rules to live by or guidance, and God said, well, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and that's not what we've really seen to this point.
Right? I was thinking about that because this is just the start, you all. There's going to be page after page after page after page of don't do this, do this. And I was wondering, is the first one? There's the covenant with Noah, and there's a couple of don'ts in there. So there are a few, but nothing like what we're getting into now. All right, Ron.
I was going to say, God created us with freedom of choice, but he also knows the temptations that human beings would face. So I think he was hitting some important, things to avoid.
Yeah,
Exist.
this is absolutely. You can think of these as like the highlights of the laws that are come. There's going to be 613 laws, and we have 10 here, and this is definitely like distilled down to some important ones. I think you could say. I think that's what you're getting at. Like he knows us,
Right.
and he knows who we are, and like these are kind of a distillation of the law. I like all this stuff, but y'all are thinking like Westerners. Well, I'm trying to get you to think like the original audience. Yeah.
Parallels, maybe.
Yeah, we would look
Chiasms, if
we would look for chiasms, for parallels, for what it's juxtaposed against. Now, with that in mind, what did we talk about last week? The leading up to Mount Sinai, it was what? What's the imagery? It's a marriage. It's a marriage, and I don't have that slide, but there were certain things you go through. And one of them is the giving of the ketubah, or you're presented with, or you're going to present the ketubah. Anybody remember what the ketubah is? It's the agreement. It's the laws by which this marriage is going to work. And you could think of it as vows. You could also think of it as a prenuptial in a way. But it's, hey, here's how this marriage is going to work. And we've just had, they were supposed to go up on the mountain. Now remember, like, the music has started, the horn has blown, we're supposed to start. They didn't go up, but Moses does go up, and the next thing that's going to happen is the ceremony, and in that is going to be the ketubah. So another way to look at this would be as, what if these are vows in a marriage? And we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about the number of them. We say 10 commandments. And there are 10 of them. But that number 10, it's got significance in the Bible. It's significant because it's 7 plus 3. Now, we place some significance on numbers, right? And I was trying to think of examples, and I think if you're driving down the road and you see 3 crosses on a hill, you know what that means because there are 3. If there were 2, you'd be like, well, did one of them fall over? Or if it was 1, it's different. But by there being 3, that has significance to us because there were 3 crosses when Jesus was crucified. The Jews placed much more significance on numbers. And so your ketubah is not going to have 11 items in it. It's not going to have 9 items in it. What are some numbers that you think they might pick to have in your ketubah? 6 for, well, 6 is a significant number, but they're not gonna go there because 6 is one short of 7, and 6 is like the human. 6 isn't a great number. It's a significant number. It's one of the numbers that has significance, but you're not going to pick it for your number of things in your ketubah. What are some other numbers that have had significance?
I could have had 12.
You had 12. 12 tribes of Israel, and that would be a common number. You might have 12 things. Probably the other most significant number that's in the very first story is what shows up over and over again. How many days in the creation? 7. So the numbers that you might pick, you might have 7 things, you might have 10 things, you might have 12 things. You're not going to have 9. You're not going to have 11. You're not going to have 8. You're certainly not going to have 4. 4 is the number of the Gentiles. So we wouldn't even think of that, right? Like you wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to have this number of vows because this number is significant. Maybe some people, but not very many people. They are always going to be concerned with the number of vows that are there. So they're going to be 10. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is they're not called commandments here. In fact, read the very first, like the first sentence fragment, how this starts.
And God spoke all these words.
Okay, now we have had several times that God spoke, and each time it just says God said, or God called to him. Here it says God spoke all these words. What is the difference there? What's the difference between me saying, and Mike said, or, and Mike said these words? Just in our language, what does that adding these words do?
Quotation marks around it.
Puts a box around it, like, this is exactly what Mike said. If I just said, and Mike said, I might be paraphrasing. But if I say Mike said these words, I'm saying it's exactly this, and I'm kind of putting a box around it as well. Like, this is exactly what he said. I think in the Hebrew it has even a little more significance than that, because the word for words and the word for speak are the same thing. It's the same word. So he's saying, he said these sayings. It is a thing. And because this is a marriage ceremony, and because it's the ketubah, it's like saying, these are the sayings, and this is often called the Decalogue, the 10 words, the 10 speakings, rather than the 10 commandments. And so the Bible is saying is, this is the ketubah. He's saying the ketubah. And then what is the very next thing? If you would read, starts in verse 2, just read verse 2.
I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery.
All right, so my question is that part of the ketubah?
It's part of the marriage, I guess.
Absolutely. And it comes, it's what immediately follows after he spake all these words, and that puts a box around this, right? So it's absolutely part of it. So wait a minute. What is the first commandment? What do we say is the first commandment? You shall have no other gods before me. What is the first thing in the ketubah? I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. And if you're saying, well, this is a marriage ceremony, this is the how the marriage is going to work, these are our vows, it seemed like pretty good first vow. Absolutely. And so it turns out that the way the Jews see it, this is the first of the Decalogue. Now,
I was going to say, in our marriage vows, we say, I take you, and we talk about being faithful. But you could say, it would be a demand to say, I am now your husband, you shall have no other husband besides me. Or I am your wife, and you shall have no other wife besides me. It would be,
Exactly, and that's exactly what it's saying. Okay, so let's go. He's getting to the next slide. So let's go to the next slide. If we were to reimagine these and try to put them in modern day language as the marriage vows, as ketubah, we could come up with something like this. So the first one is, I am your husband. And that's verse 2. Now, if we've added one, because this one wasn't there in our 10, and I said there's not going to be 11 of them, there's going to be 10. What does that mean has to happen? It means one of the others has got to fall out, or it's got to get combined, merged. And so the way the Jews would see this is that what we call the first and the second, or which is verses 3 and verses 4, are actually one commandment. And if we put that in marriage terms, it would be, I'm your husband, you can't have other lovers. In fact, I don't even want you to have pictures of other lovers. Don't even be bringing any pictures into the house of other lovers. Because I'm a jealous lover. That's what God is saying. Now, then we have, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Honor the family name. Honor the reputation that we're going to build together. And there's something about the language in here, in this one. That word, it actually means to pick up and take. So other versions will have, don't take the name of the Lord in vain. What it's actually saying is, do not pick up or lift up the name of the Lord in vain. Now, because this is a marriage ceremony, if I said, don't take my name in vain, and it's a marriage ceremony, what would that mean to you? Be faithful. And in our society, right, like the bride is taking the husband's name. They're taking the family name, right? You're taking the family. Don't take that in vain. It could be faithful, but also like don't disgrace the name. Don't live in a way that's going to bring dishonor to the name. If you're taking on this name, boy, that makes me a little uncomfortable thinking about it in a marriage. But in getting married to God, if you're taking on my name, if you're becoming a Christian, if you're becoming a follower of God, and you're going out as a follower of God, don't do that in vain. You can also translate that as don't say the name God in a vain way, or we take it as saying it as part of a curse, or as part of when you're frustrated, saying it. That's how we've always taken it, and I think it includes that, and you could also interpret it as that. But I think a much better interpretation is we're getting married. You're supposed to be my kingdom of priests, to go out and show the other nations who I am. You're taking on my name. You're picking up and carrying my name as you go out. Don't you do that in vain. Honor the family name. Then we have the Sabbath. And this is like God saying, set aside a special night once a week for just the two of us. Then we have honor your mother and father. And this is the command with a promise, Jesus is going to point out. Honor your mother and father, which I would translate as don't try to be somebody else. So, because your mother and father are who are passing down this to you. And they certainly had the idea that the Behor is going to carry on the father's purpose. Carry on my purpose. Don't forsake it and go try to be something else. Don't be Esau. It's got to be a hunter instead of a herder. Be who I've made you to be.
That's not what our culture teaches.
Yeah. Or be yourself. Be true to yourself. This is teaching something different. Be true to who you are, to your family, to this family. Then we have, you shall not murder. Don't harm yourself. If the bride is everyone, we look at it as you're hurting another person. But in this context, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting my bride. Don't harm yourself. Do not commit adultery. Protect your sexuality. Do not steal. Don't take away from your own needs. Because you're stealing from someone else who is also the bride, who needs that. Don't be doing that. Do not give false testimony. Tell the truth about yourself. And the last one, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. Be satisfied with what we have as a family. And so I think if we take the context of marriage, this might be a different way to state it, other than the cowboy 10 Commandments. It's a way to put it in plain English. Any comments so far?
I was going to say earlier that the parallel passage giving the Ten Commandments in the book of Deuteronomy,
Mm-hmm.
in the introduction of that, Moses says, "Here are your decrees and laws.
Yes.
Listen to them and obey them." So he does use maybe a stronger term than just sayings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it is, and it's going to say decrees and laws like when he has the tablets, but I'm not sure because after this is going to be the 42 commands, and he's going to come down off the mountain with both of them. And so I'm not sure if it's referring to that whole set or these, but I think you're saying in the Deuteronomy, we have the 10, a parallel of the 10, and it says decrees.
Here are your decrees and laws.
Here are your
Listen to
decrees
them
and laws.
obey them, I think is what he said.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I don't think it's wrong to look at these as commandments. I think they are. And even if you look at it this way, these are things you're supposed to do. Right? That's what a commandment is. Here's something to do that I want you to do or to not do. And it's really just looking at them a little bit differently. More in a community view than an individual view. But yeah, they're presented here, and this is the place where they are in the marriage ceremony. I don't know that Deuteronomy's got the same thing where it's like, so here he's not going to say their commands. He's going to say sayings, and you can see why he's doing that, right? Because the ketubah is not, I command you to do these 10 things. The ketubah is, we're getting married, and here's what this marriage is going to be, and it is a decalogue. It's 10 sayings. All right, let's try to notice some other things. We talked about chiasms, which can be things lining up in an order. We had some chiasms that were based on the number, the size in Genesis 1. We've got a chiasm that part of it is the size of the size of the paragraph of the day. How many words do I use to describe this day? Is there anything odd about the structure of this, like short ones, long ones? You see anything?
I'm thinking in Genesis, Adam and Eve, they were given the command just like this command is given here.
Yes. And what command were they given, by the way?
Eat of the forbidden fruit.
Ooh, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, hold on to that. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But first, do y'all see anything odd about the sizes of these commands?
The first ones are really long.
Yes, the first ones are really long. In fact, like if we start with, except for the very first one, not too long. Oh, no, wait a minute. It does have extra. It's got extra. It's not that long, but it's got extra. I am the Lord your God. I am your husband. You could stop there, but he says, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of slavery? And then we've got like really long, and then longer but shorter, and then very long, the longest one, which is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. And then honor your father and mother has got some extra stuff. And then it goes short for 4 of them. And then the last one, I don't know if it's really long or not. So the thing about these being long is they have the commandment, and then they have like a lot of extra stuff that's not really the commandment. In the you shall not covet, it's like it's all still part of the commandment, right? I'm not adding extra stuff. I'm just telling you the things not to covet. So you could say there are 5 long, 5 with extra, and 5 not with extra. Do you see any kind of pattern, though, about like, well, is there something else that's different about those first 5 as there is about the second 5? Is there any, do you see something else maybe like about the content of them?
First 5 have to do with God specifically.
Yes, except for the 5th one, which is about your mother and father. So you could say the first 4 are specifically about you and God. And then we've got your father and mother. And then we have things that are about you and the community. But that honor your father and mother, even though it's not about God, it has a direction. We talked about family relations. In their mind, it's like we have aunt and great aunt and cousin and second cousin removed, and all of these, this in-law, your mother-in-law, and all these things specifically say exactly what your relation is to me. And they were more like, there's like up and there's out. And if you're my 3rd cousin, you're my brother, because you are, out from me, whereas my ancestors are up from me. And so you could say that all 5 of these are vertically related. They're related to God, 4 of them, and then 1 of them is vertical to my parents, and then the other 5 are out. And so there's a certain structure there to that. I don't know. I think there's more to that. I don't know what it is, but it's cool to notice that, and it's certainly something God is trying to tell us here in this. The first one is different. because it's what God is saying to us. I am your husband. The rest of them are things that we need to do for him. But there's something different about this last one. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his manservant or maidservant or his ox or donkey or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Weird word, covet. I don't use it very often. In fact, like outside of this specific commandment, I don't know if I've ever in my life used the word covet. What is the word covet? What does it mean?
Want something someone else has got.
You want something someone else has got. Well, we have different words. I say that a lot. Wanting something, I say 50 times a day. I don't use the word covet. Desire. Is it more than that? Or does it have a certain flavor to it?
It's a want.
It's like you really want it? A strong desire? You could say it's a strong desire. It turns out that the word that's used here is desire. And where did desire first show up? In Adam and Eve. She wants the apple. It's desirable to get this knowledge, to be like God. It's desirable. I desire that. I want that. And so it's got a parallel to that first story. But there's also something else different about this. All of the rest of them are things that are outward things. And you would see if someone was doing it. Can you see if someone covets? Not really. Maybe you see it on their face. But not really. Not really going to see someone coveting. It's something that's inward. Can you control if you want something? Maybe?
Isn't that what it's all about?
Isn't that what the story is about? Oh, you do want this. Isn't that? Oh, that's exactly what that story is about. Because the snake says, man, God gave me desires, and that's how he spoke to me. I'm a snake. And God made that mouse smell really good. And I want to hunt it. A desire to go and get that mouse. And that is the way God made me, and that is what I do. But God says, you are not a beast. You're going to desire it, but you have to control it. And isn't that what he tells Cain? Sin is there crouching at the door. You want to do this, but you have to control it. But can you make the desire go away? Because it doesn't say when you covet your neighbor's stuff, you better control that. It says, do not desire your neighbor's stuff. Can you do that?
Be satisfied with what you got.
Be satisfied with what we have. So, which is a way of controlling it. To say that, yeah, I see that over there. Oh, it'd be nice to have that over there. But I'm satisfied with what we have.
James 4:7. Resist the devil.
Resist the devil. But you can't make him go away. He's going to be there.
It says he will flee from you eventually.
Well, okay, he will leave from you eventually. But he's not going to cease to exist. He can come back. This one's different. And this is here for us to wrestle with. I have heard it said that maybe the reason this last one is here, and the reason why it's different, and the reason why you can't even really do it, is because if you would do the other 9, then you will not desire your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's things. If you do the other 9, you will be content. You will be satisfied with what you have. I like the ring to that. I don't know. I think this is something for us to keep wrestling with. But there is something different about that one. It ties to that first story, I think. And this is what I want us to see, right? It's not just that. In the Western way of looking at it, we want to think of ourselves. We want to think of our lives and how this applies to my life. In the Eastern way of looking at this, we're digging into the text and we care what God says. And we realize that God is speaking to us, not just in a, here are the 10 things. God is speaking to us in the parallels to the other stories. God is speaking to us in the structure of this. God is speaking to us in the context of what this is. And the Cowboy 10 Commandments, there's nothing wrong with them. I think they're correct. But we're trying to dig deeper and realize that God is speaking to us in more ways than just what the words say at face value. And sometimes we don't have an answer right away. Sometimes it's there for us to wrestle with. And that 10th commandment, especially for me, it's one that's there to wrestle with. What is God really saying here? Makes me think about that first story. Makes me think about controlling my desires. And maybe it is that a way that you control it is by living out these other things. If you keep the other commandments, you won't have a problem with this one.
It says, God's a jealous God, and He wants us, at the end of the day, to be fully committed to Him and no one else. And we know, if our loved one or spouse or somebody coveted someone else, it's heartbreaking. It's just damaging. And God does not want to be part of that. He wants wholesomeness. He wants goodness from His people, from His bride.
Absolutely. Okay, and so I think you're hitting that on those first commandments there. He's a jealous God. Have no other lovers. Don't even have pictures of other lovers. But you made me think about something here. What were the first 3 tests about? What is that first test really about? I remind you, it's when they're going through the desert, they don't have water. They're getting really thirsty. And what are they saying? They're saying, is God going to provide for us? Is God going to give me what I need? God wants us to be happy. God is our provider. He's told us that we're going to have what we need if we trust in Him. Are we really doing that? Or are we saying, I want more? And that's what the third test is really about. The third test is they're getting manna every day. But, man, we had meat. We want more. We want more. But God wants us to be satisfied with what He gives us. And He says that's enough. And that's another great way to tie this last commandment.
Too, right? Because they want more. It's just like they're cutting it.
I gotta have it. And it uses a word there, crave. They craved the meat. Sometimes I crave meat. But they were craving it. But God had said, I'm giving you what you need. You got manna. You got water. I'm giving you what you need. I want you to be satisfied with that. But there wasn't enough for them. They wanted what their neighbors, the Egyptians, had. Any other thoughts on this? All right, things are about to change because we have been going through the story. And as John said, there wasn't not a lot of commands in there. Hard to find them. Maybe you can scratch and think up a couple that are in there. There's about to be nothing but commands. And we're going to...
And in that, it seems like it changed. We talk about Israel was invited to the mountain. If they didn't go, it's almost like, would the commands have been the same? It seems like maybe their hearts weren't ready. We know that God is not, to this point we haven't seen a lot of commands. I don't think that God wants us, He doesn't want to tell us all the rights and wrongs. He wants us to follow with our heart. And we don't do things because we love Him. Now God sees that even though He wants that, we don't do that. So now we have the commands to set apart His nation. We don't do this because we're Israelites. But it's what we do, it's not who we are. It's still a heart problem that we all struggle with. Because of all the commands that we see on this list, we have all broken them. And so God is still working on it. If that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. You know, if they had went up on the mountain, would they have gotten the same set of commands? You know, I don't know. Because what's going to happen is Moses, Aaron, the Levites, the priests are going to go halfway up the mountain. Moses is going to go the rest of the way. It's going to say that they looked up and saw God. And it's going to say it in this way that it gets translated something like it was paved with blue lapis lazuli. Like under him was paved with blue lapis lazuli, and that word paved is only used one time in the Bible. We don't really know what it means. But the idea here is that they went up on this mountain, and they looked up and they saw God, and they saw what was up there. And God tells them to make this tabernacle in great detail, in things that we wouldn't really understand, like why do you have to have 10 hooks, and why are they made this way, and why is it sewn together, and why does the base in it have to be exactly like it is? It seems like it's a pattern of what's in heaven. Like God is saying, I'm going to make it according to what I showed you. They looked up and they saw something up in heaven. They came down and they made a replica of it. We get a text description of it as well, but it seems like they saw it and they're making what they saw. If the Israelites had went up, they would have seen it too. But they still would have had to make the thing down here exactly the way it was. The commands, I am convinced that if we could read them correctly, we'd be just as excited about the last half of Exodus as we were about the first half. How many of you have started to read the Bible through, you were going to read it through in a year or whatever, you're just reading the Bible, and you got to this point, and boy, it really changed for you. Probably every one of us, right? I'm convinced that if we were better at reading it, that part would be just as exciting, because we would see parallels, we would see chiasms, we would see what God's doing. And I can't do that for you yet. I'm sorry, I can't. So we're going to gloss over a lot of it. And me and Johnsford have just been talking this week about how we're going to approach the rest of the Bible. We want to take about a year to get through the rest of the Old Testament. And we're going to try to do that in the best way we can to keep it interesting and to move us along to get to the New Testament. With that, just a minute for any more comments or questions. All right.